Alright, what is going on YouTube? Welcome to a 1v1 game in between Hera, an AoE2 pro, and Matiz, a StarCraft pro over here. I actually found a way to show you what map we are playing on. It says Hill and Dale over here. You can even see the map seed that they are playing on. So we will have a Holy Roman Empire for Matiz on the left side in red, and on the right side we'll have Hera as blue as French. So compared to my previous casts, I looked over my VODs and there were a couple of things I weren't really satisfied with, so I tried to adjust those things. First of all, the thing I noticed is that the camera was very stuttery in the recording. I'm not exactly sure what happened there because, like for me it was perfectly fine, so I'm thinking that the encoding while recording the video freaks out for whatever reason. So I tried to mess around a little bit with my recording settings. The other thing that you may notice is that my scroll speed is a lot slower, because I did notice my common mistake of just dragging the camera too much, so I'm gonna try to be a little bit more soft-handed, so to say, with my camera handling. This being said, I still don't know why we sort of have a massive fog when the players are actually on top of the hills. You see, there is a massive fog out here. Feels like the render distance is just low in the game, but I'm not exactly sure which setting is causing that, so that's something I still need to figure out. Anyways, hopefully this is gonna become more enjoyable for you now that I adjusted these settings a tiny bit. If you have any other feedback on what could be changed, feel free to let me know, and I'm gonna do my best to make an adjustment. So, you see Matiz is playing Holy Roman Empire here on the left side, which can make a monk, so-called prelate, in Dark Age, which inspires villagers for much better gather rates. So here the idea for Matiz is that he comes in, inspires the villagers, and then goes back to the town center. This is something that we should regularly see from the prelates, simply because once the prelate has blessed the villager, the effect is active for 30 seconds. So, you see, these villagers are still glowing gold here, so they are still affected, and the effect is just now running out, whereas the prelate is now back and it's buffing the food villagers. So you sort of micro your prelate back and forth, so you can maximize that buff over there. Whereas on the other side, we're seeing a very standard French opening from Hera over here. Seems like he's pretty heavy on gold here. He's already sending 5 on gold. He seems to have the food to click up soon, and I would think he's just going to use some of his gold villagers to age up, but it's just going to be a standard French School of Cavalry Knights opening here. I also love this placement here for Matiz's prelate. So what he's going to do is that the moment the villager pops out to go for wood, that villager will be blessed by the prelate. As I said, the bless effect lasts for 30 seconds, and there is like a 2 seconds cooldown in between the prelate being able to buff new villagers. For Matiz, he's most likely going to age up with the Alchem Chapel, which is basically a building that extends the range of the prelate quite a bit, so you can pretty much buff your entire economy. If you place the Alchem Chapel over here, you would be able to buff your gold miners, your lumberjacks, and your food gatherers as well. Looks like it's going to be a different position though. It's not going to affect the gold mine this way, but it is going to affect potentially the berries, of course, the food in the future, and it might actually be in the range of that gold mine even. Nope, that's not the case. You see, inside this circle, all the villagers will be blessed by the prelate if the prelate is garrisoned inside the Alchem Chapel. Meanwhile, here comes Hera with his scout. On the other side, he is already going up the Feudal Age with the School of Cavalry, but he sent all the villagers off from gold, so makes me wonder what he's exactly doing. He's gonna eat some damage on his scout from the TC fire. For a moment, he may have been tempted to try and harass that villager on the gold mine, but then he decided not to because the TC fire was able to range that scout. Meanwhile, on the other side, Matiz will find the School of Cavalry from Hera. So far, it looks like Hera's only building a School of Cavalry with 1 villager, and he's mining stone, so it's actually going to be a 2 TC play. It's a little risky against Holy Roman Empire, because the Holy Roman Empire is very good with their infantry. They do have access to men-at-arms early on. For now, it's going to be a Spearman opening for Matiz, of course, because he's expecting knights from his opponent. But since the Holy Roman Empire is such a powerful infantry civ, it's very likely they will have quite a lot of infantry out, and they would just get the infantry siege upgrade on the blacksmith and just ram you down. So there is some risk involved here for Hera, going for a 2 TC play. You see, Since he doesn't even have any gold mining and a knight would cost 100 gold, it's very likely he won't even make a single knight. It's possible he will make 1 or 2 horsemen because he would have the food and wood for it. But as things stand, it's very possible that he's just gonna play 2 TC Boom here. As I said, the map is called Hill and Dale. So basically, you have starting hills for the players, and the sacred sites, the relics, and the majority of the big gold mines are in the middle. So that's where you're gonna have to expand in the future. But it's relatively easy to defend your base. You see, Matiz only needs to wall off this crossing, and he's done. And of course, this one on the left side, and this tiny bit on the north. Same thing for Hera. Easy wall off here, here, and rather more difficult here in the middle, but both bases are fairly well defendable. Hera's gonna see the spearman coming in, and now the question is, will Matiz just play defensive with the spearman and try to just leverage the fact that the prelate buffing the ecos has an enormous effect, and you would just have a super efficient economy? Or is he planning to go aggressive on this one? Looks like he's just sitting back for the time being, and he's gonna add a stable for additional scouts. Ooh. So when you do this, I would assume that you are doing it for 2 reasons. A, because you want to get the villager or the scout hunting upgrade at some point, and just want to ferry in deer. The other thing is that you're defending with spearmen. So if Hera makes a couple of knights and brings in 3 archers, you're in trouble. So it's probably a preemptive stable from Matiz here, just so that he can add a couple of horsemen as well. But the primary priority right now for him is making scouts. He could also make scouts on the town center, but that would sort of sacrifice the villager production over there. So he will most likely try to ferry in deer whenever possible. Indeed, there is the scout hunting upgrade. The thing I like about that is that you actually get quite a lot of extra food doing this. There is apparently 1 patch of huntables here, and Hera is going for that. It's a little ambitious to just go out there without any kind of defense for your vills, and the scouts from Matiz could just swoop up the huntables and run away with them. That's probably what we're going to see from Matiz. He's got 3 scouts right now, and looks like there is no 4th one on the way. There is another patch of deer that he could ferry in, and these he can probably just mill himself. So, looks like a defensive tower is coming in here for Hera. Matiz might actually try to do some harassment here. He shouldn't be able to do much against the villagers. I don't think that he can even kill 1. So he has to be satisfied with just sort of laming the huntables as soon as possible. Pick up the hunt and run away as fast as you can. Like, if you actually do that, Hera's gonna have a tough time at doing anything with this tower, to be honest. It's gonna be a wasteful investment in the end for Hera if Matiz is able to lame those huntables. And it's a pretty tricky thing to defend against, I'm not gonna lie. The problem with the hunt laming is that the villagers can't do anything to prevent it. The only way Hera can afford it to defend against it is if he goes for scout hunting himself, and he just picks up the carcasses himself. Or, of course, if he depletes them before the enemy scouts come in. Speaking of which, by the way, if you think about it, in this scenario it might be wise for Hera to try and kill multiple huntables and just try to spread out his villagers in between those. So the idea would be that instead of Matiz swooping in and taking 3 huntables that are full food, Hera would have all of these killed, and all of them would have some food lost. So the carcasses that he would be carrying back would be a little bit less on the food content. I don't think it's something that Hera's gonna do, and honestly it's probably a little too fine of a detail, but one thing that needs to be considered here for the devs is that currently there is no answer to the scout stealing your hunt. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? I honestly don't know. I'm not necessarily a fan of the fact that you cannot do anything against it, pretty much. But anyways, Matiz is coming in with the Ragnitz Cathedral. As I said, when you play the Holy Roman Empire, you have an insanely efficient economy. The prelate buffing all those villagers is massive, especially if you add the fact that you got a lot of huntables to work with as well. So the Ragnitz Cathedral is a building that you can garrison relics into just like a monastery, but they generate 200% extra gold. The indicator down here is actually bugged. It's gonna give you 100 gold according to the indicator, but that's what you would get from a monastery as well. In reality, that's 300 gold per minute, one of the best landmarks in the game. If you secure 3 relics here, that's gonna be 900 gold a minute for Matiz. Hera had a couple of knights out, by the way. I feel like the main reason why he's pumping out knights is so that he can actually prevent Matiz from laming his huntables. Matiz is going to settle with the Huntables over here on top of his hill, as we will have a second stable in, so it's very possible we're going to see knights from the Holy Roman Empire. That's not completely uncharacteristic of them, but they're mainly an infantry civilization, so you don't see that much cavalry from them early on, as it looks like Hera is swooping in with the cavalry from the south. Might actually be able to intercept those scouts, because those scouts are going for a hunt over here. Oh, Hera? Yep, he's gonna spot the scouts, but it looks like he's turning back. Matiz may have also seen the knights himself, however, and indeed he's dispatching the spearmen to deal with that. Hera's gonna have to disengage for the time being. Matiz is coming in with the archer defense upgrade, somewhat surprisingly, so he's definitely expecting archers to come up from Hera against his infantry. And if he wants to go knights, he probably wants to get the defense upgrades, so his knights are a little bit more resistant to crossbow fire as well. Looks like for Hera, he's indeed coming in with archers. He has been on 2 town centers for quite a while, so if you look at the economies, Hera's got 54, and Matiz has got 35, so massive eco lead for Hera in terms of numbers. In terms of resources gathered, it also feels like it, especially that food gather rate is much better for Hera, but of course that's natural when you have a 20 villagers lead. If Matiz adds a second TC though to balance out the villager counts, I think he's gonna be good. And I wonder if that second TC is gonna be right here or at the bottom. And before I finish my sentence, I'm gonna get my answer. And here's the deal. Since you already have the prelates that are buffing your eco, and you can make them on your town center, you can pick up the relics immediately. Some knights are coming out already for our Holy Roman Empire player. By the way, their knights look absolutely amazing. One of my favorite knight models are these, with the shiny silver armor. Hera only has early knights right now. They're royal knights, but in Castle Age they would be veteran royal knights. That's an upgrade that Hera needs to make sure that those units of his are actually as strong as the opponent's knights here. So as things stand, we already have the first relic being brought in here by the prelate. There is one over here that could be picked up. The others are more problematic. There is one over here that's defended by Hera's tower, and one over here, one over here. So I'm not saying that the relic spawn was actually very favorable here for our red player, but he might be able to get this one, and then maybe this. He's definitely benefiting from the deer ferrying in as well, so he's gonna have some extra food with that. And there is 2 more barracks coming in, so it looks like he's gonna have a couple of knights for map control, but it might be supported heavily by either spearmen or maybe even Landsknecht. I need to get used to saying Landsknecht again. I managed to learn it in one of my streams, and I appreciate everybody who actually gave feedback on the pronunciation stuff. That definitely helps. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying my best. So 2 TCs for Matiz over here, as it looks like he is going to find this relic here. This is probably the best he can pick up, because it's unlikely Hera's gonna have a lot of stuff over there. Hera currently with veteran royal knights now, plus he's got some archers, and he's mixing in crossbows now. That I like. Finally, we're seeing pro players adding crossbows to destroy the opponent's armor, and that's something that the Holy Roman Empire could have trouble with, because they love to play with their men-at-arms, their knights are also fine, so Matiz is gonna have to mix in horsemen here. Alternatively, he could go for spearmen as well, because there isn't really a lot of archers from his opponent, as he swoops in with a couple of knights, picks off one will, and then will disengage as he sees the archers coming in. He's going to force Hera off from gold, and that's another villager that goes down, so -2 is Hera. Matiz is probably still behind, and there is a raid coming in from Hera as well that could do quite a lot of damage. But look at this, knights coming in as well. It's a single knight actually, just a couple of scouts coming in to lame the Huntables, but Hera's gonna lose these vills while he's trying to clean up this mess. Meanwhile for Matiz, his base is also being raided, and I don't see the spearmen coming in here to defend. Looks like Matiz will react to this one, however. He's gonna lose 1 or 2 vills, but he does have knights here to defend. Other side, it looks like Hera is chasing those knights with archers. Matiz trying to save them, and he actually will get away. So quite a lot of raiding on both sides, as looks like Matiz already has veteran spearmen as well, pulls them back to defend against the knights. So when it dust settles, it's 49 vills for Matiz and 63 for Hera. Still a considerable eco lead in terms of numbers, but we have to keep in mind that Matiz got 2 relics, which will give him 600 gold per minute. And of course, he's got the prelate buffing his economy. That's actually something that helps immensely. Although, like, at this point, the food line is starting to get pretty far. And the villagers are also outside of this radius, so you have to place your farming eco around here to make the cathedral efficient again. So, looking at the relics, as I said, this is probably Matiz's best bet, or maybe this one. But this one is inaccessible right now for him, so currently he will be sitting on 2 relics. Has quite a lot of spearmen. It looks like he is playing with spearmen and knights. He's moving out to the right side with that monk, which makes me wonder if he wants to push this tower and yoink the relic. It's very possible he will try to do that. Hera's got knights, some crossbows, and the archers out, as he's coming in with some palisades down south, palisades on the north as well, so he will only have one entrance to his base, and that's gonna be through the middle. Looking at the resources, Hera is floating a lot of gold right now. He has been mining gold like crazy, if I'm not mistaken. He has got 27 on gold. That's a little too excessive to my taste. He's getting the archer attack upgrades in, and he already has the melee attacks and the first... No, he's actually missing the first melee defense. So both defense upgrades are missing, but the attack upgrades are in. It looks like Hera sees that group of units coming in here. Indeed, he will. But those spearmen could actually set that outpost on fire in a couple of seconds. So that is going to be a short-lived outpost. And I feel like, depending on where the prelate is, he might be able to yoink the relic before the reinforcements come in. The villager also goes down from Hera. And yeah, it looks like Matiz is just going to be like, okay, I'm out of here, boys. Here come the archers and the crossbows. Now, that many spearmen should be able to win this fight, I think, for Matiz. Because there is some crossbows here and there's some archers. But there isn't really a huge amount of archers right now to take down the light infantry. Also, Landsknecht being added to the mix. This guy has area damage, so if it closes the distance, it's gonna pack a big punch. And it looks like Hera is getting forced back quite a bit. He doesn't have enough archers to deal with all the spearmen. The crossbows will destroy the knights of Matiz, but Hera will need a lot more archers to deal with the spearmen. Matiz is able to yoink that relic for himself. So, as I said, while Hera seems to have the better economy with the villagers, 71 to 65, I think Matiz now has a better eco with the third relic coming in, plus, of course, the Aachen Chapel boosting the eco of his opponent. Looks like we have a mixture of horsemen and knights being made by Matiz. He's pop-capped at 110 right now. It looks like he's launching a counterattack with a couple of knights. This could catch Hera off guard, who definitely has way less production buildings than Matiz. Matiz got like 6 stables, 3 barracks whatsoever, whereas Hera is at 2 stables plus the School of Cavalry and 2 ranges. So production speed is probably better right now for Matiz, and he's gonna leverage that to try and take down some of Hera's lumberjacks. Also manages to finish off the knight. Not sure why he makes then that scout into that group. Might have been a mistake. Might just be for extra line of sight, I'm not exactly sure. But he ended up losing that scout. Now he will disengage. So, looks like we are seeing more and more Landsknecht being mixed in. As I said, he's right now on 4 stables, 3 barracks. Looking at the upgrades, he's getting Military Academy, a very, very good upgrade in Castle Age that buffs your production speed. And that actually applies to all units, so that's very, very nice. It even applies to Siege. So that's a very underrated upgrade. Just like in the case of Conscription and AoE4, it's an extremely important upgrade to grab, and it's relatively cheap. It's like, what, 50 wood, 125 gold? No, it's actually double. Still, for Castle Age terms, this is relatively cheap, and it gives you a massive buff in production speed. So it's definitely worth grabbing. Looks like Matiz never really bothered walling himself on the south. I don't think that he needs to over here because he's got very, very good vision around this area. Plus a TC there as well. But the left side is a little exposed. He's got a massive army of spearmen, quite a lot of Landsknechte, and some horsemen plus knights combination. Hera's mixing in more crossbows though, and I feel like that's a dangerous group of archers over here as well for him. I still believe that the archer numbers could be better just to pick off the spearmen, because there's just so much light infantry here, and oh boy, that was a massive miss micro by Hera. He's gonna get absolutely wrapped around by the knights. What a pop by Matiz. This is a slaughter if I've ever seen one, and now with the archers gone, the spearmen will just shred the knights. An absolute disaster for Hera. That is what we call a slaughter, ladies and gentlemen. Now Matiz is at 62 army, Hera is down to 22. He might need to go for some walls over here in front of his base, because if he doesn't do that, he will just get overrun by a flood of pikemen. That was an absolute slaughter. Beautiful micro there by Matiz. Hera looked away for just a split second, and I don't blame him for it. Really, you can look away for half a moment, and you're gonna get your entire army sandwiched by hundreds of knights and horsemen. Now, Sacred Site being captured right now by Matiz as well for some extra gold trickle. He's got the Ragni's Cathedral full of relics, and he's gonna have some Sacred Sites as well. So Hera will be forced to make a move eventually, when he needs to neutralize the Sacred Sites if Matiz takes all 3 of them. But for now, I think Hera needs to play defensive because he's so much behind in army numbers. It's difficult to say what Hera needs because the unit composition is so good for Matiz. He's got Spearmen, he's got the Landsknechte, he's got some Horsemen as well, so not only pure Knights, so he's got something as the Crossbowmen as well. So this is a very, very diverse unit composition for Matiz. And I appreciate that from him. So he's not just going brute force knights or brute force horsemen. He's got a very, very good unit composition. And the more Landsknecht they will have, the more dangerous this army becomes, because these guys will have area damage. So they will just slaughter any kind of units in melee. Probably even the knights. They die rather easily, but they do so much damage that they will probably perform pretty decently against the knights. Red Palace coming in here for Hera. He's going up to Imperial. This is actually extremely powerful defensive landmark for the French. It is basically a keep with high power arbalest emplacements. In fact, I think it's particularly good against ships. So this thing is just an absolute beast when it comes to coastal defense. Looks like Hera's gonna launch a potential counterattack here. He wants to snipe the prelate, capturing the Sacred Site down south, and he will be able to do so because this guy is defenseless. Is Matiz going into Imperial? Looks like he isn't, so there is going to be a chance for Hera to leverage technological advantage. Now, as I said, that keep here is going to make it extremely difficult for Matiz to push up the hill. Hera still needs to be careful not to overextend, because he needs the upgrades before he takes this fight. One of the things that he could do, and that would be very, very nice for him, I think, is hand cannoneers. Hand cannoneers work pretty well against infantry. They work well against any kind of units in general if you have some sort of meat shield in front. So if Hera retains these knights and just mixes in hand cannoneers, that could be a way to go, and he is doing it. It's very, very nice to see, by the way, how players are figuring out the game, and finally we're actually seeing the appropriate counters to units. Considering that he's got quite a lot of arbaletier, I would still say that grabbing both crossbow stirrups and gambesons would help, but definitely gambesons. Crossbow stirrups is very expensive, it's 300 food, 700 gold. Gambesons is only 100 wood, 250 gold, and it would give a lot of melee armor to the arbaletier, and all of those units that they're facing is melee units. So that would be massive for the crossbows of Hera. For now, it's just gonna be hand cannons, as Matiz is also looking to imp. He's building the landmark with 19 vills, so he wants to go up really fast here. He's going up with the Palace of Swabia, which is basically an extra town center that produces villagers 75% faster and 75% cheaper. Now, does Matiz need this? I'm not 100% sure, as did Hera delete his walls here? Kind of feels like it, because I didn't see Matiz attacking this side and destroying the walls. So Hera deleted the walls and Matiz will just swoop in with the cavalry. Now that's a problem for Hera. He has gotten a university for himself and he has gotten biology. So his cavalry now has that upgrade. The royal bloodlines is still something that's missing for Hera though. He's got chivalry. But these are still veteran royal knights, so they don't have the Imperial Age upgrades. They're not elite yet. Elite is not even coming in. And you see Candled Saddles and royal bloodlines both missing for Hera. So he's still pretty far away from getting all those cavalry upgrades, but he actually takes a pretty good fight over here. All those cavalry units got slaughtered by the town center fire. I think there were some hand cannoneers involved, alongside some heavy cavalry, so this time around Matiz is the one that loses significant amount of forces. Here it is. All 3 sacred sites have been taken by Matiz, so Hera's gonna have to neutralize one in order to avoid losing the game in a couple of minutes. He's gonna try neutralizing it with 1 knight, and considering that Matiz doesn't have a lot of cavalry left, he doesn't have a lot of mobility to catch up with this force, and it's very possible Hera's just gonna neutralize this one. So, one thing I wanted to say about the Palace of Swabia is that it definitely helps that you can boom with that even more, and you see, that boom is crazy. In fact, you see that Matiz is not even using his starting TC anymore to make vills, he's just using this one. Once you're fully boomed, that's not going to help that much. Still, if you get raided heavily, it helps you replenish your villagers much easier, and it looks like Hera should be able to neutralize that sacred site if he wants to, but he needs to send in the knight to do so. This is not a fight that Hera wants to take though, as we see hand cannoneers coming in as well from our red player. That's definitely not a fight for Hera, and I think he wasn't focusing on those knights for a couple of moments. He's gonna run into a lot of spearmen. And of course some Landsknechte, some hand cannoneers, not ideal for Hera. He needs to retreat to the safety of his castle. Matiz is at 160 population, Hera is at 147. Hera still hasn't neutralized the sacred site, despite the fact that he's got the knight over there. He could also try taking this one. The central one is going to be a little more difficult because there's a keep protecting it. So there's Hera neutralizing that side. Hera hasn't actually picked up any of the relics down here, so he's got no gold income from that. But this map has a lot of mineable gold, so that shouldn't be a #1 priority for Hera. It's still pretty important, but for now he's getting the melee defense upgrades for himself. We also have Elite Knight coming in, so we're just going to be missing Cantled Saddles and the Royal Bloodlines upgrade. Hera once again swooping in with some knights. Chivalry actually is very, very beneficial right now for him. You see that all of his knights are passively self-healing, and that helps retain those numbers for him. His goldmine is quite exposed, but he's got a lot of firepower behind this one now. Same thing for Matiz, however. Look at those elite spearmen. The Landsknechte are still standard when it comes to upgrades. And if this gets neutralized, Hera can run away and then just... Oh, it's not gonna get neutralized if there is knights in there. Matiz actually is going to scare away Hera. Now those are elite royal knights, but Hera won't be able to neutralize this, and the clock is still ticking for Hera. The clock is ticking. Matiz is actually gonna drop an outpost here on the right side to see if Hera wants to swoop in and neutralize the northern part. But that's what Hera needs to do. He needs to sort of simultaneously attack both sides with some cavalry and neutralize one of those. Unfortunately, on the spectator overlay, there is no indicator that tells you how far we are from the landmark victory condition. And oh boy, here come the Landsknechte. Nice charge from the cavalry. Not necessarily the best fight ever though for Hera. And those Landsknechte actually do area damage, so clumped up units like these crossbows and hand cannoneers could get slaughtered. In exchange though, they die so easily that they're pretty much 2 shots for hand cannons. And it turns out that hand cannons are super duper powerful. Hera is gonna lose this battle, but all the infantry for Matiz has went down, and honestly, while I feel like Hera is gonna get cleaned up over here more or less, I really feel like Matiz lost bigger numbers than Hera did, so this has to be a win for Hera. Those knights are actually perfect as a meat shield, and the hand cannoneers are just shooting from behind. You see, Hera is still at 23 army, whereas Matiz is down to 22, and Matiz had massive numbers advantage before this. Still, as I said, clock is ticking for Hera, not just because his opponent is getting closer to a landmark victory, or excuse me, the sacred site victory, not landmark victory. It's also because those sacred sites are actually generating gold to Matiz as well. Looks like a trebuchet is being set up over here by Matiz to trap that castle down. Hera will most likely use the heavy cavalry to swoop in and snipe it, and I don't think that Matiz can prevent that from happening. Elite horsemen in for Matiz. They look a little weird, I must say. Round shields for Holy Roman Empire? Anyone familiar with history? Did the Holy Roman Empire actually use round shields? I thought that they were using rectangular shields in most cases. It's just a small aesthetics thing. Lady? Lady? You wanna talk about this? Lady? I don't think that's the most efficient way of repairing that castle, lady. But I'm gonna leave you to it, because it looks like you're not gonna change. So it looks like Hera's gonna launch another assault on the south. Does he have enough? I'm not 100% sure. There's a lot of horsemen in here. But the thing is that horsemen don't necessarily perform better against hand cannoneers than knights do, because hand cannoneers are not good against knights because they have bonus damage. They don't have bonus damage against anything. They simply just have a massive firepower. So I think that hand cannoneers, just as much as they can kill the knights, they can kill the horsemen as well. The question is the numbers. Hera's gonna have a very good meat shield here, and the Royal Knights, after charging in, they also get a bonus damage. Looks like Hera is actually gonna be able to take a reasonable fight here. He's gonna clean up the majority of the cavalry here. Hand cannons from his opponent are going down. His own hand cannons are also going down. But we got some reinforcements coming in from Hera. Reinforcements also coming in from Matiz. That Sacred Site victory is getting dangerously close here, so this is almost a must-win type of fight for Hera now, because he needs to neutralize that Sacred Site, but does he have enough? Matiz is at 36 army and Hera is at 24 only. Looks like the reinforcements are coming in a little faster for Matiz. Now, if Hera kills those units inside the Sacred Site's radius, he can actually start neutralizing it despite the fact there's enemy units in here, and he needs to do that. Meanwhile, in the middle, his castle is being trapped. He tried to dive in with the knights, but it looks like that got picked off potentially by a couple of hand cannoneers. Looks like we also have some springolds joining the party. Hera's gonna dive in with some heavy cavalry to try and snipe them. This looks like it's an even fight down south over here. Is this enough for Hera though? He's got slightly better hand cannoneer numbers right now, but I just feel like the reinforcements are coming in at a much more convincing pace for Matiz. Hera is out of resources, whereas Matiz is floating a lot. And I feel like Hera needs to neutralize that Sacred Site right now. I think the victory for the Sacred Site started at like 25 or so minutes, and I think it's a 10 minutes counter. So around 33, 4, 5 minutes, the game should be over for Hera if it doesn't neutralize one of these. Now, Hera could try sending in some units to the north right now, because you see, Matiz doesn't have a lot of forces. So if Hera sends in like 5 knights there, there's a chance he could try to neutralize them. His keep is still alive here in the middle, and oh boy, that's a problem for Hera. If that keep goes up, Matiz will be able to retain control over that Sacred Site. And as I said, clock is ticking really badly here for Hera. Behind this one, remember that Matiz has an insane gold income because of the Ragnitz Cathedral, so he has had free relics for the majority of the game with the Cathedral, plus the Sacred Sites, and I'm not sure if Hera can win this fight here. He's got less knights than the amount of horsemen, but the knights are much better than the horsemen in this fight here. Keep is coming up. Hera is sending in all the knights. This is one of those fights where I would even say that Hera could send in his villagers to just absorb the damage, because Hera needs to keep his army alive. And losing villagers is not necessarily a big problem over here. You can rebuild them over time, but you need to keep your army alive because you need to neutralize the Sacred Site. The keep is almost finished here for Matiz, and I think it's gonna finish just in time, which means that Hera's got like little chance to neutralize the Sacred Site, because now this keep is going to, guess what, keep him away from doing that. In the middle, Hera is still repairing that keep, and the lady is still freaking out. But now this is a problem. Oh yeah, that's desperation for Hera. That's desperation. He was focusing, I think, too much on this southern Sacred Site, and maybe if he goes for the northern one, it could have been different. But I still believe that the late game eco-efficiency of the Holy Roman Empire might be better than the French. You see, all of these villagers are affected by the Prelate's Getter boost ability, so currently, if we look at Matiz's resource income, that's way better in all regards compared to Hera. Hera's got some food and wood to work with, but he's unable to maintain his population now, and he's down to 13 army. I don't think he's gonna be able to neutralize the Sacred Sites, and Matiz takes the win. One of the better games I've seen for quite a while, I have to say. It was pretty intense, quite a lot of aggression. The beginning was a little slow, I would say, but we had a pretty intense endgame, I would say, for now. Hera and Matiz had pretty much the same villager count, but as I said, if you look at the prelate buff, that's going to make Matiz's economy better in the long run. But the military count, that was massive for Matiz. Like, when he hit Imperial, he had like 80 army, whereas for Hera had like 40. Obviously, Hera went mostly on knights and hand cannoneers. Both of those are very, very expensive. Whereas the horsemen for Matiz are a little bit cheaper. And as I said, Matiz, I think, had a slightly better eco as well. If you look at the stats real quick, Matiz actually had the KD advantage by a tiny bit. I'm not sure why Hera has lost 12 buildings over here. I think that's a bug. Maybe it counts deleted buildings as well, because Matiz only destroyed 2. Hera actually had the more score eco-wise, but when it comes to resources together, you see 1,000 extra stone, 5,000 extra wood, 3k extra food. So part of the reason why Matiz was able to edge this win out is because he just had a better economy than his opponent, despite the fact that he was 16 villagers behind with the villager high compared to Hera. Beautiful game though, I have to say. Matiz has shown that the Holy Roman Empire definitely has some things going for them. especially if you let them boom. In Feudal Age, the Holy Roman Empire are a little bit exposed to aggression, I would say. But once you get to Castle Age, they suddenly become one of the more powerful civilizations. Very efficient economy, and their unit tech tree is actually pretty decent. So their hand cannoneers are fine. They got knights as well that work reasonably well. And their infantry is a great auxiliary unit, especially when they're fighting against this much cavalry that came out from Hera. So Hera couldn't really take fights mid-game because he was just swarmed by pikemen. Well played by Matiz. Good game, good game.